Requesting connection. Established. Encrypted. We're live. The show you've been asking for. Advice, technology, and community. Linux first, all others second. This is Ask Noah.
Live from Altispeed Technologies, the show that puts you, the listener, in the driver's seat because you are the content. The phone lines are open to be a part of the program. It's a free call. 1-855-450-NOAH. That's 1-855-450-6624. Give me a call. We'll have a conversation about your tech questions or business insight questions. Linux advocate, above all else, small business owner, and now host of the only radio show centered around you, the listener. Welcome to the Ask Noah Show. My name is Noah Chalias. So good evening to you all. Delighted to be here. Another episode of the Ask Noah Show kicking off this hour, and we have a bunch of stuff to get to. And I struggled. I've actually turned a couple of things around one or two times this afternoon, just trying to decide where to start. And what I've landed on is an app, an Android app, and they have it for iOS too, that is going to change your life. Now, we don't usually talk about mobile apps on this show, partly because I just generally have this belief that the mobile computing infrastructure sucks. I don't really like it at all. And it's which one sucks less? Do I think that iOS sucks less or Android sucks less? And a lot of people that I really respect in the tech community kind of share my beliefs. They might differ and say, well, I think that iOS sucks a little bit differently, or I use this sailfish thing or this, but there's no real geek I know of that's like, yeah, I've totally gotten rid of my desktop computers and gone all mobile. And at the same time, these mobile devices, these little computers are ridiculously powerful, and they have all of this really cool technology, GPS location in them, Wi-Fi in them, cellular LTE, the ability to do voice. And with the right application infrastructure, you can really leverage these devices to do some really cool things. And so the other week, I was talking, Chris sent me a telegram. It was really funny. He says, he's very honest, right? And so he'll tell me, he'll say, listen, this is what I want, and this is the time period that we have to get this thing done before I am not interested in this thing anymore. And sometimes that time period is a little bit tight. And so I was out having lunch with my family, and he asked me about something, and I was really particularly interested in engaging in that particular thing. And so I didn't have a way to talk to him, so I just installed Plumble on my phone and was talking to him that way. And we had a great conversation, and I started to think about all the various different things I could do with my cell phone. And so I started just looking at different apps that were available and looking at different problems that I had in life and how could I fix them. And one of the biggest things that has been a frustrating aspect of life has been my wife. We're very busy people between 3 kids, and I've got kids in all these activities. Some of my kids are in school, others are in preschool. They've got church, they've got drum lessons, and they're over at their families are watching them. And so trying to keep track of all these things, does my son have lunch money, and what's on the menu today? And he doesn't like tacos, and they serve those that, there's Taco Tuesday. And so when there's Taco Tuesday, we have to pack him a different lunch. Trying to keep track of life can be a difficult thing. And, with Ting, you've got the dashboard, and you log into the Ting dashboard, and it tells you boom, there it is. All the stuff that you need to know about your Ting life. And you want to know about server infrastructure. Boom, DigitalOcean has a dashboard of all the DigitalOcean stuff. Well, I needed a dashboard for my life. I needed a dashboard that could tell me at a moment's glance, this is what's going on in the Chalaya family. And I found it. And the app is called Life 360. Now, out of the box, Life 360 does some really cool things just that are free, that you don't have to pay for. And some of the primary thing of which is location tracking. So it's kind of like on iOS, the Find My Friends app, where you can look up where the other person is, and you can, if you lose your phone, you can, click on it or lock it and all that other stuff. So it kind of does that stuff on the free version, but it does it on steroids. It learns, and you tell it programmatically all of the places that you want to that you visit. So we put in my son's school, we put in our house, we put in my office, I put in all of my clients, and it has a built-in messaging system, so I can use the built-in messaging system to communicate different things about my current location or where I'm going or those kinds of things. And again, it's contextually aware of what the app is doing. So for example, if it knows I'm at work, if I send a message, it will have a little thing that knows at work and sending this message just to make her aware. And so right away, I think within like 2 or 3 hours, I was like, this app is amazing and the infrastructure is amazing and the information that it provides to me and the, I guess, flexibility that it's giving my family is phenomenal. How much is the paid version? What more things could I do? And sure enough, it's like $2 a month. You pay yearly. And then they knock off like $10. So I think it ended up being like $18 for the year for the whole family to get on this Life 360 app, and you have the flexibility just goes through the roof. So just for the review of this show, I started turning on all of the different features, and a lot of them I'm going to shut back off because they're either not useful to me, I find them creepy, or it's just one of those two things. But for the purpose of reviewing the app, I think it's useful to know. And so I turned on all of the possible data collection things and all of the possible notifications. And some of the things that show up when my wife goes, when she leaves for, if she's going to take the kids to school, it knows that she has departed the house. And so I get a push alert and it says, hey, Sarah left the home. And when she gets to the school, it says, Sarah arrived at the school. And it also says Sarah had, during her drive, a top speed of, she completed a 2.5 mile drive and a top speed of 43 miles an hour, or whatever it is, right? So the advantage of that is when my kids get to driving age, if they are also part of our family circle in the Life 360 app, I'll know if they drove straight to school or if they drove over to their friend's house to pick Bob up, who I told them not to do, and if they were speeding down South Washington. Yeah, all of that stuff is visible to me inside of the app. Because it has all of the location stuff, it can also do history tracking. So just the other day, I left my backpack at a client's, and I couldn't remember where I had been last. I knew there's like 3 or 4 different places. I was like, where was the very last place I was? So I log into my Life 360 app. Let me take a look. Oh, the last place I was at was here. Oh, great. I'm going to go ahead and do that. I left my phone somewhere. Log into the Life 360 app. Not only does it tell me where my phone is, it also tells me what Wi-Fi network I'm connected to and my battery life and all of that stuff. I'm coming to do the show. And as some of you know, the person who screens the calls when you call in most weeks is Sarah. That's my wife. And right before we did the show, I get a push alert, and I'm going to pull it up here. It says, Sarah only has 10% battery on her phone. Would you like to send a message to ask Sarah to charge her phone? So it keeps track inside of the app what the battery life of all the other people in your circle is. Now, why that's particularly advantageous, my wife was driving to Fargo the other day, and her phone died, and I could look on the app, and even though it showed her last known location was here, and now there's not a phone signal, I might have been worried about that, but it gives me a little message. Hey, by the way, the last known percentage of her battery was 1%, so it's likely that her battery died on the way to Fargo. And of course, once she plugged her phone back in and arrived safely at her destination, I get another push alert that says, hey, by the way, Sarah arrived at her at her location. Now, again, all of this, when you turn all of those notifications on, the fact that I'm getting and she's getting the same, like we're doing it to kind of test it out. She's getting all those alerts too. Now, the fact that one spouse would get alerts or want to get alerts, I guess, about every time their spouse leaves the house or arrives at a location and what their speed was and what path they took and where their driving history was. Obviously, that's a little over the top and it is creepy. And the chat room's pointing it out. That's creepy. Why would you want to do that? But here's the truth is Google is already tracking my location. Okay. So it's not like I'm giving up some of my privacy. The only thing I'm doing is sharing the information that I'm involuntarily submitting. Well, we could get into a discussion of, the ULUP, but I'm involuntarily giving to Google. I'm now taking that information and very much willingly sharing it with my wife, who I could care less. I have nothing to hide from her. I want her to know where I am at all points of the day. And man, is that nice when I leave my last client for the day and she gets a push alert that says, Noah left his last client. He'll be home in 57 minutes with current traffic and blah, 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 because that's where he goes at 6. We figured that out. And that's where his next destination is. And then that really gives her an idea of, well, when should we do dinner? Or should I take the kids out? And all of that stuff is just being handled automatically. Now, again, I'm against the whole cloud thing for the most part, and so I'm the last person to come on the air and talk about how great this cloud app is that is going crazy over your privacy. But and maybe it's just one of those things that you have to try it to understand it to understand how incredibly useful this is. But I don't know what to say. Like there are so many times when I have had to answer, where we have gone back and forth and I've answered, questions, and my wife will say, "Where are you right now?" Or "Are you going to pick up Noah, or am I going to pick up Noah from school? And how far out, and who's going to do?" All of that is solved now. All of that is solved because if she leaves the house around 3:00, I know she's headed to get to school, and to pick him up from school, and I get the notification that she's on her way to his school. And if I'm done with a client and she sees that I'm already en route, then she knows that she doesn't have to. So the kind of questions that those answers, yes, there's definitely a privacy discussion to be had here, and yes, you are very much giving up some privacy. But I submit to you, you're not giving any privacy up that you wouldn't have gotten. That you're not already giving up with Google, and the benefits are just crazy. And so I'm going to keep playing with Life 360. I think it is one of the most useful apps I have ever installed. Privacy aside, creepiness aside, I think it's really cool. And as my kids get older, I think it's going to be kind of neat to be able to look at a map and be like, here's where your family is, and here's how long they're all going to be. We went out to dinner too with my cousin is in town, and man alive, if I'm headed over to we went to this place called the Ale House, and I'm over there, and man, is it nice to pull up my phone, look at it. Oh, Sarah's on her way to the Ale House, and she'll arrive in 11 minutes. Oh, now I know she's already on the way. I don't have to ask her if she's left yet. Don't have to ask her if she has the kids. I know. And so I think that's really cool. And if you guys think that's too creepy, then that's fine too. Phone lines are open, 1-855-450-NOAH. That's 855-450-6624. The email, live@asknoahshow.com. Make your voice heard, become a part of the program, and we will go back into the mumble room right after we head over to the phone calls. Lou is calling from Virginia. Hi, Lou. Welcome to the Ask Noah Show.
Hello, Noah. How are you doing, man?
Excellent. How are you doing, Lou?
I'm doing fine. I was the guy who talked to you in Reddit about reviewing the Dell 5510, so I'm hoping that we can do that sometime in April.
Yes, anytime, sir. You reach out to me anytime. I would love to do so. To give the listeners kind of a backstory, Lou and I had gone back on Reddit, and Lou got a really neat computer, and and you guys, just from what I've seen on the YouTube channel, you guys love reviews of computers. And so I asked Lou, I said, would you come on the program and talk about it? Because I'd love to hear it, and you're using Linux on it, so that would be really great. But how can I help today?
So I had updated my multi-boot workstation, as I call it, because it's a tower unit, and I have multiple operating systems in there. So I did a fresh install of Ubuntu 16.04 on an SSD. But for some reason, when I installed an updated kernel, I went from 4.10 to 4.14, Grub continues to prefer the newer kernel, and that newer kernel right now does not support ZFS. So I continue to edit all these things to say, don't use the 4.10 kernel, do that. But when I do an update to the machine, even though I have the Grub XE default turn saying do not update Grub, it continues to update Grub. So is there something that I'm missing on how to tell Ubuntu 16.04 not to update Grub, and so I can continue to use the 4.10 kernel?
Okay, I'll be honest with you. So my first inclination is to tell you that we probably should solve the fact that you don't want to update your kernel, right? Because there's some pretty serious security implications in that method. But there is a way, and I don't. Am I in the mumble? I am in the mumble room. Mumble room, if you can help me out, if you guys happen to remember what this is, there is a file that says the target kernel that boots inside of Grub. There's a way to update that and tell it when you boot, always boot this as the target. Mumble room, do you guys happen to know what that is off the top of your head?
Not off the top of my head, but it's a hardware enablement thing.
It is.
I'll figure it out.
Hardware enablement? Question?
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that, but here's the thing. Michael is a very smart guy, so I would imagine he said he was going to look into it, so he might have tucked out there. But yeah, there is definitely a way to set the target inside of Grub and tell it, when you boot, this is the kernel you want to boot. And there are reasons. I have had custom kernel modules in servers where we have to boot a specific version of the kernel. And yes, there's a security implication. And no, the business doesn't care. They just know that they have to be at, on this particular kernel version. There's nothing we can do about it. So I have been where you are. And, yeah, that's just something you have to do sometimes. So I'll tell you what, Lou, I'll put you back on hold and I'll give Michael a second to see if he can track that down. And then, is that okay? Is that okay with you if I do that? And then I can bring you back up when he finds it?
Well, I can take the answer off air.
Okay.
I just wanted to say, long time listener, first time caller, and thanks for all you do on this show. And I will probably try to call in next week with my other question. How about that?
That would be great. And again, I look forward to having you back on the show when that laptop, when you want to come back and talk about that laptop. We'd love to hear about it. Again, phone lines 1-855-450-NOAA. That's 1-855-450-6624. The email live at AskNoahShow.com. Dylan is calling. Hey, Dylan, welcome to the Ask Noah Show.
Hey, Noah, I've been a big fan of your show for a while now.
Awesome.
How's it going today?
Excellent. You're calling us from Canada?
Yeah, from Canada, from BC.
Okay, welcome from British Columbia.
Yeah. I've been wondering about what do you think about the recent decision? Like, I guess not too recent, but what do you think about like down in Germany they decided to ditch Linux for Windows 10, which is kind of like spyware in a sense. What do you think about that?
I think it's short-sighted. I think that a lot of times, and I think that a lot of times, a lot of these decisions are driven by a lot of very loud and vocal people that don't really understand the technology. And I've seen that firsthand. We'll go into a business and we'll say, look, you guys are, I'll give you a real life example that happened just a couple of weeks ago. There was a company that they had a Office suite, and basically literally the only thing that Office suite did was they had this templated letter, and they took some information that came out of I don't know exactly how I can say this on the air without giving too much detail away, but basically there was some information that had to be put inside of a Word document template and then printed out. Now that they wanted the logo up at the top and the phone number and all of that stuff is all the same, just the text body in the middle changes. So literally there is no formatting of this document whatsoever. And we open up the template inside of LibreOffice and it imports perfectly, which doesn't always happen. Sometimes there are some import problems. It didn't happen this time. Absolutely perfect. And then what ended up happening was, because the toolbar looks different, which by the way, they don't touch ever, because the toolbar looks different. And then they're like, well, we're used to the ribbon layout and we've got, and I'm like, well, here's the thing. One, the newer the newer version of Office does have ribbons if you want to do that. But the other thing is it's much more efficient to use Control-A, Control-C, Control-V, because those shortcuts work universally across applications. And that's not an open source argument. That is a user efficiency argument. If I go into MS Paint, the Control-C, Control-V is the same thing as Microsoft Word, right? So, and even given those arguments, the people that had to do it every day were very upset about it. Now, ultimately, in our case, because we work, directly with upper management, they didn't really have much of a choice, and so they just ended up, complaining about it. But I have seen firsthand where those people start to become very, very vocal because things don't work the same way. And Michael from the chat, actually, you're on here, Michael, too, if you key up in Mumble. But Michael in the chat room says that even the engineers in Munich said that the mayor's decision, regardless, that it was completely wasteful. So
yeah, they even said that the reason why they weren't they were switching. They said, the mayor said the reason why we're switching because there's software we need that people can't use without having Windows, and their biggest reason was because they need Microsoft Office. And then within like a week, he came out and said, we haven't decided whether we're leaving LibreOffice or not, which is defeating the entire point of moving in the first place.
And I question to a certain degree if there isn't some backdoor conversations happening. And I'm not putting on like a tinfoil hat or anything. I'm just saying, like, is there somebody in Microsoft, because they're a large company, that is rubbing the shoulders of some of these politicians and saying, hey, you know what, man, we'd really like you to come back over to our team, and these are the things that we could do. And so I think it's a short-sighted decision, and particularly I think it's interesting. I was having a discussion with a client the other day, and they were talking about G Suite, and they were saying about how much more comfortable they were in G Suite than they are in traditional Microsoft Office. And I thought that's interesting for a couple of reasons. One, all of my kids, basically anyone under the age of 15 right now, is not learning Microsoft Office at all. They are almost exclusively learning G Suite inside of the school because that's what's very prevalent, especially on Chromebooks and Chromebooks for Education and Google for Education, all of those things. And so the generation that's going to come up in the next 10 years is going to be very proficient on G Suite and probably not going to be as efficient in Microsoft Office. And to add to that, then you start looking at document format and compatibility. G Suite itself actually uses the ODF format. And so if you download that format, it will import perfectly into LibreOffice. It will not import perfectly into Microsoft Office. Now, let me give you just got me on a roll, Dylan, is what you did. But but I'll give you an example from SELF, one of my favorite conferences to attend, Southeast Linux Fest. They mandate that if you give a presentation that you use one of their computers, and their computers are ThinkPads with Gentoo on them. So if you're one of the people that show up to a Linux conference and you have this snubbish attitude of, I'm going to make my presentation look much better than all of those Linux people with their open source software because I have Impress or Microsoft PowerPoint and it looks so much cleaner and slick, and I have Calibre font. If you're one of those people and I'm serious, you put your presentation on a flash drive, you walk up there and you plug it into that Gentoo box, guess what? Your presentation is all messed up. It's all sorts of goofed up because it didn't import properly. Whereas the people that wrote their presentations inside of LibreOffice or were planning on using Linux to begin with, they're like, I don't really care. Gentoo, Ubuntu, Fedora, doesn't matter to me. It's Linux. Those guys are the ones that come out looking like rock stars. And so I think the shift is moving both inside of the open source community and inside of the corporate community at large. I think both of those are moving. And so that's, that you asked me what I think. That's what I think. I think it's a short-sighted decision. And I think that ultimately we are going to see Germany walk that back if we're not already seeing it being walked back, like Michael was saying.
Yeah, I understand that it's convenience, that it's just familiar, with Windows XP from years ago. But do you think that Linux can finally emerge and finally become a rival in terms of graphics drivers and just PC gaming in general, or do you think that people are more on the whole smartphone craze?
I think that in general, speaking in general terms, I think Linux always will have a performance competitive advantage as compared to Windows or Mac OS. And I think every time we've seen the two go head to head, you find that Linux comes out ahead. And we see that happening over and over and over again. If ever there was a time where Linux should not have succeeded, absolutely should not have succeeded, it should be in the virtual space. VMware had virtual servers and virtual infrastructure locked so far down and had it so far in the bag that people literally created services and businesses and consulting services based around VMware. And where are they today? Nobody seriously I shouldn't say nobody, but the vast majority of people that are spinning up virtual infrastructure today are not doing it on VMware. And I have it on some pretty authoritative sources that VMware is no longer actively developing a lot of their stuff. A lot of it's on maintenance mode. And look what has taken its place. Overt, libvirt. You see presentations. I go to a lot of conferences that aren't Linux specific, and even those conferences are talking about the performance difference and how KVM on Linux, on libvirt, is almost indistinguishable from running something on bare metal, and that is something that these proprietary guys just haven't seen. And so when you start looking at the cost infrastructure, the ability to not have vendor lock-in, because you can move basically to any file or any virtualization infrastructure once you have the file system on QCOW 2, and then you start adding the performance benefits. It's amazing how far Linux pulled ahead in a space that they should have never been able to do that. And now you start looking on the desktop side where you have snap packages and app image and Flatpaks, and you start to see all of this universal packaging stuff. So now targeting Linux has become less of a thing. And if Canonical gets their way, and they are banging down some doors with some force, if Canonical gets their way, you are going to see snap packages available on Windows, Mac OS, and Linux. And so developers are going to target one place, one package system, Snap, and it's going to run everywhere. And we're looking at that early days, like the very first couple snaps that have come out. And I'm not saying it's perfect, but I'm saying it's way better than any other packaging format. You know, if you think about it, comparing that to like the whole Java thing, package once, run everywhere kind of thing, which never even came close to working properly, they're already in like iteration 1. They've already like blown that out of the water. So I thank you for the call, and I hope that Germany figures that out sooner rather than later. We were talking to a guy from Jamaica just last week that was talking about how his Minister of Technology, I think it was Minister of Technology, I think that's the thing. The Minister of Technology literally has come out and said this was a short-sighted decision. So anyway, thanks for the call. 1-855-450-NOAH, 855-450-6624. The email, live@asknoahshow.com. Kevin is calling North Dakota. Hey, Kevin, welcome to the Ask Noah Show.
Hello, Noah. How are you doing today?
Excellent, sir. How can we help?
I was trying to clone my Windows laptop hard drive. I was going to reinstall Windows because it's starting to act a little wonky, so I decided a reinstall was the best thing to do.
Okay.
And I used CloneZilla as my cloning tool, which is a tool I've used for many years. I should mention that the Windows laptop had a GPT partition table. Anyways, when I was done with the cloning procedure, I tried to reboot the laptop, and it wouldn't boot. It just sat there at a blank screen with a blinking cursor. And so I shut it off, and I booted up my laptop with a Linux Live CD, and I used gparted to look at the hard drive. Well, it showed that the partitions weren't recognizable. And so now I'm trying to figure out if there's like a tool I can use to recover those partitions.
There is. There's a couple different tools. The one that comes to mind, it's actually a really fantastic tool that I had not heard of up until I'd heard of it, but I'd never used it up until a couple of weeks ago. And I'm frantically looking through my notes here to see if I can find what the name of it is. But I don't think I'm going to be able to find it for you right this minute. But I'm gonna look into it, and I'm gonna get back to you. But basically, and I notice you're in Grand Forks.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you want, if you know where Ultra Hospital is?
Yep.
So right across the street is the Med Park Mall facility. We're in that building. We're on the top floor. And if you 1191 South Columbia Road, if you bring your laptop by, we could definitely take a look at that. And or I'll tell you what, I'll one up you. If you got some time later on this week and you want to grab dinner somewhere, you let me know. Dinner will be my treat. And you bring your laptop along, and we can work on it together. I'd be lying to you if I told you I was the best person to fix Windows partitions. That's not my specialty. But there is a program, and of course I can't find it now that you asked me on the air. But there is a program that you boot into a live Linux distro. You install this program, and basically it can look at a grub partition, it can look at an EFI partition, or it can look at a BIOS partition, and it can rebuild either one of those. I think it's just called bootfix. Actually, now that I think about it. I'm not sure on that. I'm trying to see. I feel like it is funny because I just fixed my wife's laptop and I found that tool and I was like, man, the whole thing is automatic. So I was really hoping I could find it, but of course I don't write that down. But I'll find out for you. And yeah, what I'll do is I'll put you back on hold, Kevin, and I'll have Sarah grab your contact details, and I'll get a hold of you once I get off the air, and you and I can maybe bang that out. Yeah, it's something like boot repair. That's it, boot repair. It's got a generic name, but it's a fantastic package, and the whole thing is automated. Works really, really well. And the chat room is saying that Test Disk, PhotoRec are great. Those are great tools for recovering data. I don't know if that's.
I thought they was wanting to do that, but yeah, boot repair I've used that before as well.
Isn't it great? It's such an underrated tool. Because
it's probably because the name is so generic and possible to find.
Yeah, I can't remember it, and I just used it a week ago. But the thing about that boot rec program is that you literally, I mean, it's like a little wizard. It's, oh, your computer's broken. Well, here's what we found. Here are the operating systems that are installed. Did you want to install Grub? Yes. Is it EFI or boot? What's EFI? Okay, where would you like the EFI file to be? Right here. Okay, all right. Hold on a second. Okay, now your computer boots. It's absolutely fantastic. Lou is calling. Hey, Lou. I assume this is a different Lou. Welcome to the Ask Noah Show.
Hey. I've been looking around for a movie/TV script software that's not on the cloud, and the go-to that I always use is now on the cloud. Do you have anything that's Linux-based and not on the cloud? Any ideas?
What do you want?
The guys on Telegram, huh?
I was just going to ask, what do you want the script to do? Like, what is the goal here? What are we trying to do?
Make a movie script. TV.
Oh, he wants to do like story mode, storyline stuff.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, yes, there is actually, and yes, I do have one that's not on the cloud. Let me see how fast. Let me see how good my Google skills are. We covered this on the Linux Action Show. Let's see here. Movie script. We covered this as an app pick on the Linux Action Show, and I am trying to see quickly. Man, the day of things I can't seem to find. Chat room, can you guys look this up for me? Somewhere in the Linux Action Show, we did it was a really great app. It's an open source. Do you know what I'm talking about, Lou?
Okay.
Did you look? Do you know what I'm talking about or no?
No.
I'm going to find out for you, Lou. This is something somebody will find it. Somebody in the chat room look this up for me, because I know we covered this. It was an app pick on Linux Action Show, and it was an open source.
It's called Fade In.
Fade In. There we go. So, you know why he got that. Lou, are you still there with me? Lou? Nope. Okay. It's called Fade In, and it's screenwriting software. And the thing that is particularly fantastic about Fade In is it is Hollywood-grade screenwriting software. They even go so far as to color the background of the screenwriting software so it looks like paper. It's available for Mac, Windows, and Linux, iPhone, iPad, and Android. And it was used in Star Wars 8, The Last Jedi. It was used, I'm trying to see if there's other movies that you guys would recognize. A couple other small ones. That's probably the biggest one. But yeah, it's really great software, really professional grade software, not second class at all, and runs on Linux. And as far as I know, it's not on the cloud. It's just you run it locally. Although you could back the files up on the cloud if you wanted to. But that would be my suggestion for screenwriting calls. Again, 1-855-450-NOAH, 855-450-6624. The email, live@asknoahshow.com. Now, I'm going to jump out of Mumble here for just a second, and I'm going to switch over to our other system here. And we have a special guest coming on the show this hour. And basically, what I have, some of you know that after this episode comes out, we do it live. After this episode comes out, somebody edits the show and then publishes it for us. And that gentleman is a guy who we call Rikai. It's his screen name. And Rikai and I have been friends for many years, and I've worked with him for a very long time. And Rikai is kind of my go-to guy when we're doing projects. And lately, him and I have started to tackle cryptocurrency together. And basically what has happened is the cryptocurrency world is going crazy. All sorts of different things are happening. So Forbes.com headline, Litecoin reaches 1 month high after hard fork. Litecoin railed, this is on today, published today. Litecoin rallied today, climbing to the highest in more than a month following Litecoin Cash hard fork that took place on Sunday. The alternative protocol assets altcoin price rose to as much as $253 according to CoinMarketCap. At this point, Litecoin was up roughly 16% over the last 24 hours and more than 135% over the recent low that it hit on February 6th. Additional CoinMarketCap figures show. This was also the first time that Litecoin reached a $250 value since mid-January. Litecoin has been experiencing tailwinds lately that are pushing Traders piled into the digital currency in anticipation of the hard fork and rewarded those holding Litecoins with units of the newly created Litecoin Cash. This new cryptocurrency is similar to Litecoin, but with a few minor adjustments. Litecoin Cash came into existence February 18th, and more than 6 months after Bitcoin Cash, a fork of Bitcoin, was now created. Both of these newly created digital cryptocurrencies have drawn substantial interest from investors, with Bitcoin Cash repeatedly ranking as one of the top 5 cryptocurrencies by market capitalization. So to give you a quick recap of what a hard fork is, why it's necessary, and what that means for those that are holding the cryptocurrencies, essentially, the block size for the transactions is set at a given size. So let's say it's 1 meg. If we increase that size to 2 megs, we can process more of the transactions in a given computation cycle, I guess. But the downside is that it requires more computing power, more networking, more storage required to do those calculations. So proponents of this higher block size argue that it makes the currency more versatile because you can actually spend it, whereas right now, at the cost of, I don't know, what is Bitcoin at? 14,000 something? It's at, let's look, 14,094, almost $15,000. If your cryptocurrency is trading at $15,000, it's very difficult to get money in or out of it because it's going to cost you $20 just to do a transaction. The downside to increasing the block size is that it makes the currency more reliant on fewer infrastructure things. So if you have, maybe the argument is if you had 100 people that could process 1 megabyte block size and you increase that to 2, maybe now you only have 50 people that can process it. Now I question whether it's that severe. In fact, I know it's not that severe. I question if it makes any measurable difference at all, but I understand the argument. And what that has led people to do as Bitcoin has climbed and become unusable as a day-to-day traded currency is invest in alt currencies. And one of the guys that has been kind of leading that, spearheading that thing and flipping on a day-to-day basis is my friend Rikai. Welcome to the Ask Noah Show, Rikai.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. Now, this is the first time you've been on Ask Noah, yeah?
I believe so, yeah.
So I guess we'll start with this. You and I, we have been hosting another show called User Error. And how would you describe User Error to people that maybe they've never heard of another show and this is the first time they're hearing it? How would you describe User Error?
It's the show with all the stuff that we can't put on any of the other shows that we do.
So it's kind of like the unplugged version, right?
Yeah.
And the thing that I have always enjoyed about User Error is the way we record it. When I sit down to do this show, I do show prep. I prepare stories, I prepare guests, I come up with topics that we're going to talk about, and then we go on the air and we talk about them. When we do User Error, we don't prepare, at least the way that you and I do it, we don't prepare anything. We have a rough idea of some things we're going to talk about, but mostly you and I sit down and it's just two friends having a conversation. And then you go through and painstakingly clip out the portions of that conversation that are interesting or that you think that are interesting to people. And we release that as a show.
Yep, that's about right.
And the advantage to that is we cover a wide range of topics, right? So, I mean, we've talked about everything. We've talked about cryptocurrency. We've talked about mining, and we've talked everything up to and including religion.
Yep.
So that was last week's episode. So tell me a little bit about this. How did you first come to, because, I mean, working for a network that produced a show about cryptocurrency, obviously you knew about cryptocurrency, but what is it that actually drove you to say, okay, I want to personally get involved in this? Because you built a really nice mining rig. Like, what drove you to say, I'm going to invest my personal time, I'm going to dedicate a whole machine to mining cryptocurrency, like at a very high level? How did you get involved?
Well, I mean, I actually mined Bitcoin back in 2011 just as a curiosity. And that turned out well. But then I kind of just fell away from it because I got burned. I lost my Bitcoin on a Bitcoin exchange, and it kind of soured me on the experience. But then, I don't know, just recently I decided, why not give it another try?
So in today's dollars, that's probably millions of dollars that you lost.
I think like 40 grand.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah.
So not even a full, like 2 coins, 3 coins or something like that.
Yeah, 2 or 3 coins, yeah.
Okay. So that's not as bad. There are people that lost like 60, 70 coins. I mean, think about the guy. So the point at which a lot of people say that Bitcoin truly became valuable was back when a gentleman convinced a pizza shop to sell him 2 pizzas for like 10,000 Bitcoin. And that was and then he went and posted about it on Reddit. And that was the first time that people were like, huh, this digital currency thing, it has value because the guy says it has value, even though it doesn't have value. I guess it must be valuable. Well, if they give 2 pizzas for it, I'd give 3 pizzas for it. And then it just kind of took off, and now we're at $15,000 or whatever. And so what you've tried to do now, well, I should back up. You set out to be at the cutting edge of the next big Bitcoin, of the next big cryptocurrency, of the next thing to take off. Isn't that right?
Yeah, kind of.
So, and that was Ravencoin, right?
Yep. I figured, I'd try to find something that seemed like it had potential and just get in early and see if I could make something of it.
And with Ravencoin, out of all the cryptocurrencies, because at the time that you looked at Ravencoin, there had to have been, easily 50, 60 different cryptocurrencies, many of which had more popularity than Ravencoin. What drew you to Ravencoin specifically?
Ravencoin was the developers that helped set it up are developers that are longtime, well-known members of the Bitcoin development community. So that's a good start. And then on top of that, the thing that they seem to want to tackle is the transfer of assets, which is something that several things have tried, but nobody has done really well. So it seemed like a combination of good things.
So basically, you agreed with what they were trying to accomplish, and you agreed with the people who were trying to accomplish it.
Yeah, and it seems to have panned out so far.
Well, okay, so let's talk about that. So you started out where you were going to get into mining these crypto coins. You were gonna be on the cutting edge, and then as it turned out, you're like, well, it hasn't gone up to like 40 grand or anything, but I can sell these for more than it cost me to mine them, and so you sold some. Then a week later, or a couple days later, I guess, you look at it and you're like, wait a minute, the price went down. Well, now I could keep the money I made, plus I could have all my Ravencoin back. Well, I'll buy it back. And then you did that. And then a couple days after that, it went up again. You're like, whoa. Well, I guess I'll sell it now. And you've turned that into a daily thing where you're buying and flipping cryptocurrency to the point that you're bringing in some sizable income for yourself.
I have almost $2,000 in Ravencoin and 0.06 Bitcoin as well.
And to be clear, that's 0.06. So that's $200. No, sorry.
Yeah, something like that.
Well, okay. And to be clear, you didn't make this money because you mined a bunch of Ravencoin and it went up. You made this money by you mined some Ravencoin, you sold it at a high price, bought it at a low price, sold it at a high, and you've been kind of playing that cycle.
Yep, I'm up to like 130,000 Ravencoin.
So some might say you're doing with Ravencoin exactly what Noah from the Ask Noah show says that people should not do with cryptocurrency. Because I tell people not to invest in it, to do it as a fun thing, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm still doing it as a fun thing, though. I enjoy doing it. It's something entertaining to do in my free time.
So, talk to me about what you and I are. So, you and I are looking at potentially setting up a mining system. Is that going to be Ravencoin, or is that going to be something else?
It'll probably be a variety of coins, whichever is the most profitable at the time.
So we're going to set up a ultra-speed mining center, and we're going to have Rikai is going to configure all of this stuff, and then I suppose we split the profits or something like that, huh?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
So it's basically a matter of kind of setting this stuff up. Well, that's really interesting, and I think that good on you for being involved in the community, because if you talk to Rikai, it doesn't take long to realize that he understands each and every one of these cryptocurrencies and the benefits and the detractors from them, and then you're able to kind of pick out that gem in the weeds and say, yeah, that's the one. It's not even on an exchange yet, but I think I can make some money using that one. And that's kind of a skill. And even if I don't agree with the method, and even if I don't think it's a reliable enough method, or that, and I don't mean this disparagingly, but that you have enough experience that I would tell other people to follow in your footsteps, it's definitely worked out so far for you.
Yeah, I have no complaints.
Yeah, not yet anyway. Well, we'll see how that goes. Well, so Rikai, I understand that one of the things that you do, and I've tried to kind of get myself into the mindset, and I've had a little bit of difficulty. Kind of, it's not my cup of tea, so to speak. But you're moving me around. Slowly, I'm coming to you. Is you like to stream for fun? So you play video games and you capture those video games and then you stream those out. Tell me about that.
Yeah. Every single day now, I stream at least 2 hours of gaming, and I just like to hang out and entertain people, and it's good fun.
Okay, well, great. And so I understand coming up, you're partnering with Altispeed to give some people some incentive to watch you stream.
Yeah, this coming Friday and Saturday, I'm going to be doing a pair of 12-hour streams, and on each day, for anybody that is a subscriber of me, I am going to I'm going to do a giveaway for a $100 gift card on each day.
Oh, that sounds great.
That's funded by Altispeed. I figured I would give Altispeed a different avenue of advertising.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're excited because Altispeed has always been on the cutting edge of technology. And so even if game streaming isn't really I'd be lying if I said as a business owner, I sat down and I've looked over the white paper and I've looked at the P&L and I've done some analysis and I've decided that this investment really has a high possibility of a good rate of return, a good ROI. That's not that, right? It's I'm a geek, you're a geek, and we talked about this and we started looking and said, okay, what markets is Altispeed not participating in that we could be, whether or not it has an ROI, and what markets, how could you get those things done that you want to get done, i.e., how can you stream these things? And so we came together and said, you know what, if we give some people some incentives, they would come and watch you stream, and Altispeed would get some recognition in a community that is otherwise unrepresented, and so we're going to partner up, we're going to do that. So we're giving away a $200, we're giving two $100 gift certificates. Did I say that right?
Correct.
2 $100 gift certificates from Amazon.com. And by the way, if you wonder why we always go to Amazon gift cards, it's not because I do like Amazon, but the reason is because we know that the audience is far and wide and some of you are across the pond and we don't want to exclude you. And because we were looking at shipping some equipment, we were going to do some gaming equipment. But when you actually break it down, it's like, to ship that stuff out, then we'd have to restrict it to U.S. only, and it's just kind of a pain. So if we do gift cards, then you guys can go buy whatever it is you want. And if you're like our caller from last week who won the gift card for the Ask Noah Show Telegram group, then he actually gave a lot of that money away. So that's really cool. So where can people go if they want to see you stream?
Rek.net, REKD.net.
Awesome. And if they want to find that, then they'll head over there and watch you stream, and we can kind of check this stuff out. That'll be really great. And if they want to follow you and me and our shenanigans in crypto mining and all of that stuff, where can they go?
That would be jupiterbroadcasting.com, and just go to the shows drop down and choose user.
Outstanding. Thanks a lot, Rikai, for being on the Ask Noah Show. We'll get you back in the program real soon. All right. Have a good night, Noah. Thanks, sir. We appreciate it. Again, open phone lines, 1-855-450-NOAH. That's 855-450-6624. The email, live at AskNoahShow.com. Hey, Mumble Room, I got to apologize to you guys. The way that the system, I had Rikai on the same box that I had you guys on, so that's why you guys couldn't hear Rikai. You guys forgive me, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Okay, good. That's what I like to hear. Again, open phones, 1-855-450-NOAH. That's 855-450-6624. The email, live at AskNoahShow.com. So, guys, there's been a lot of talk about HTTPS, encrypting your traffic on the interwebs. And it turns out that there are some people that think that HTTPS isn't a good idea. And it turns out that there are a lot of people that think that HTTPS is a good idea, and the discussion rages on back and forth. And the Ask Noah Show is not going to take a stance. I have my own opinions. I don't think anyone would say that HTTPS is a perfect solution. I also don't think that I would agree that we have a better solution. So I will take the most secure solution that we have available at the time. But what the Ask Noah Show wants to do is to put our foot in the sand and say, if you want to do this, if you believe, like we believe, that every site should have SSL should have HTTPS enabled. We're going to show you exactly how to do that. And a lot of the so-called problems with HTTPS revolved around the idea that they couldn't be automated. You couldn't automate the renewal. And that, quite frankly, is factually false. It is actually incredibly easy to automatically renew a certificate. It does not cost any money, and it does not take any time. It is literally just a couple of commands that you can set this up. Now, an important point of clarification, because I have watched people bang each other's heads against the internet lately talking about this idea of authenticity. And the question is, does an SSL certificate verify that a person representing a company actually belongs to the company they claim to be representing? In other words, if I bought, well, actually, we did this in the video. I bought Dell.Casa, and I have no official relationship with Dell other than our partnership agreement, which, believe me, does not cover any of the, buying websites. We bought the domain Dell.Casa, and we generated a valid SSL certificate that gives the user the green padlock on the website, and we copied Dell's site and made some fun little changes to Dell's site, because we know that Dell wants to take a stronger support on Linux. So we made that clear on their website. But the point is that that SSL, domain level verification, does nothing to verify that I actually belong to Dell. It only verifies that I found a top level domain that hasn't been registered with Dell's name. And actually, I'm sure there's some sort of trademark infringement in there somewhere, but we're doing it as an example. We're going to take the website down. It's not meant to be permanent or anything like that. We're just using it as an example. You can do organizational verification where you buy a certificate from VeriSign or wherever, and they actually verify that you work for the organization you claim to represent. But here's the caveat and why I think that doesn't matter. Somebody find me users that go up to that little green padlock, click on it, and see which CA that certificate was signed with. Because I don't think 90% of users would notice if there wasn't SSL to begin with. And the ones that do notice that there's SSL only notice it when a scarygram comes up that says, this certificate is self-signed, we can't verify that this is the same server over and over again, are you sure you want to visit? And then they got to click through the scarygram. Users will notice that, but no SSL or SSL that has a little green padlock, I'll bet you 99% of users, 99.99999% of users couldn't care less what the CA is. And there's probably some small, minute portion of the people that look at the CA and then go inspect the certificate or whatever. And so we made a video about that, and we'll have that linked in the show notes. And it walks you step by step. I give you some of my opinions on SSL and what SSL is and why you should use it. And then we go and show you step by step a tutorial on how to set it up. You can have it set up in under 2 minutes, add SSL to any site, add SSL to any web server that's whether it's running and has been running without SSL, or if it's a brand new site, you can set it up any domain of your choosing, and we show you how to do the renewals. We automate that. It's scripted. It's part of the video. And so there is no excuse to have a site that doesn't run SSL. So make sure to check that out, asknoahshow.com, podcast.asknoahshow.com, and check out the show notes for this week's episode. There'll be a link to that HTTPS video. Coming up next week, I want to we're looking at making a video of the ultimate stand-up Linux workstation. We ordered some really cool equipment, and we got a really cool desk in, and I was demoing it, and it has totally changed the way I worked. And it all started when I bought my first USB-C dock, and I purchased it for a client, and I set it up, and I liked it so much, I went and immediately ordered one for myself. And then I started looking at it, and I thought, wow, this would be a really cool video if we could set up and show you how could you make the ultimate laptop Linux workstation that connects to all of these peripherals, so you get desktop performance and a desktop feel from a Linux-based laptop with USB-C. We're going to show you how to do that. That video is going to come up. I'm not sure if it'll come out this week or next week, but keep an eye on our YouTube channel for that. We're going to go back to the phones. Is it Harvey from Massachusetts? Hey, Harvey, welcome to the Ask Noah Show.
It's Herv.
Herv, sorry about that.
Hey, no problem. I'm kind of a little starstruck that I get a chance to talk to you, but I was calling because I switched over to Linux a while ago, and I'm just getting into gaming, and I had a Windows PC that was running Steam and have all these games or whatever, and I want to switch it over to Linux, all right? but I want to bring my games only, which are Windows only.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Now, I heard you can do this using Wine, downloading the Wine version of Steam, and it downloads all the Windows games, and, most of them will work if they're old enough and so on. But I wanted to know if there was a way to get it so that the Linux native games that do work natively on Linux will run too.
Yeah, sure. So, I want to start. I want to reset this conversation just a little bit. Now, I am the guy that will tell you to use Linux wherever possible all the time, and I've been doing this for a long time. Altispeed started since 2009, and we have yet to come across a client where we can't find a way to shoehorn Linux into a solution somewhere. And despite being that guy, I also have to be, if I'm being honest with myself and if I'm being honest with you, I have to tell you, there are some things that other operating systems are better at, and gaming is just one of those things at the moment where Windows is a little bit better. Now, that's not to say you can't use Linux. I just want to go into it with an open and honest discussion, and because we've got to build trust. And if otherwise, if I don't tell you that and we don't start the discussion off that way, then everything else I tell you isn't trustworthy. And so we have to be honest and start from a position of truth. And so that's the truth. Now, how can we? Now, that's not to say you can't use Linux, and I'm going to help you do that. I would suggest not running Wine to do gaming on Linux. Here's what I would suggest. I would suggest looking at something called PCI pass-through. Now, my friend Wendell over at Tech One Syndicates has a step-by-step how-to video. I'm going to put that in the show notes for you, and it will walk you through exactly how to set up a PCI pass-through. Now, what PCI pass-through does is it allows you to boot a virtual Windows infrastructure on your Linux box and run your Windows games. But the important differentiator here is that Windows seizes the graphics card and some of the other peripherals like the keyboard and mouse. So you get native, almost, and kind of what we talked about at the beginning of the hour, almost bare metal native performance on your games. It'll work with all of your Windows games because there is, in fact, a little mini virtualized version of Windows running on it. And yet, if Windows crashes and all of the security implications of Windows are all contained inside of this little virtual infrastructure. And so at the end of the day, it's kind of like saying, well, my Windows app crashed, and then you just restart Windows and you're fine. But Firefox and Telegram and Thunderbird and all of your processes and all of your private information, all of that is sitting in a nice, secure area of Linux with no problems. Now, as to the games that run on Linux, the great thing about PCI pass-through, you can build a really beefy machine and you can have available both the Windows VM and you can have all of your native Steam stuff available. Are you following me with that? So you can have all of your Linux Steam stuff on the bare metal, and then you can boot this PCI pass-through Windows version that has all of your Windows Steam games, and both can utilize this. If you have like a nice beefy build, you can utilize that on both platforms. Does that make sense?
That makes sense, but actually, if you use PCI pass-through, doesn't Windows completely grab the entire video card and that's it? Linux doesn't see it at all.
It can. So that's probably what you would do, yes. But what a lot of people do, and I think Wendell actually walks through this with you, is you can set it up in such a way that you have one specific video card that Windows is grabbing, and the rest of your system is still running through Linux. So you can have other peripherals and stuff like that that are outside of that PCI pass through.
Yeah, and that's understood. So I won't be able to play any Linux native games on my PC that has one video card with this.
Yeah, no. Well, you could. You would just have to shut the Windows VM down when you wanted to do that, right? So you want to play. You're getting ready to game. You'd spin up the Windows VM. You'd play your games. When you're done, you'd shut that Windows VM down. You'd go back to your Linux device. If the games run on Linux, you could power them up right from Linux. And don't let me stop you from trying it on Wine. That's perfectly fine. You can give that a shot. Just from talking to people that do this, that play games a lot. In fact, if Rikai was still here, I'd bring him back up. I think that they would tell you that you're going to have a better experience on PCI pass-through than you would with Wine, because you won't notice, because it literally is like as if you're playing on metal.
Windows. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah, let me check out that. The link you're gonna put up in the show notes. What'd you call it?
Yep, it's Level 1 Techs. My friend Wendell Wilson, and I will have that. I'll have that for you linked in the show notes. podcast.asknoahshow.com. Dylan, I got about 30 seconds.
Hello.
Hey,
how's it going, Noah?
Pretty good.
I called you earlier. Yeah, I've been I have one more question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
It's OpenGL versus DirectX. Do you think that with Wayland coming up, do you think that Linux can finally advance into hardcore gaming, essentially with titles like GTA or et cetera?
Yeah, I do. I think that OpenGL has proven time and time again to be more advanced, and I think that once we get Wayland settled down, I think it's going to be absolutely fantastic. And I trust the people that are developing Wayland and the people that are developing these game engines and stuff to make that happen. Hey guys, the Ask Noah show continues next Tuesday at 6 p.m. Central. Huge thanks to Vox Telesys for providing our phone systems, Ben, our producer, Sarah, our call screener, Rikai, our video editor. We'll hand you off to the Harm Reduction Report coming up on the all-new Independent Talk KEQQ 88.3.